Yes, hey guys, and welcome back to another predictions video. And in today's video, I'm going to be predicting the Thorslund versus Nuki fight. And so, if you're new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so. Like video if you do need a like video, and let's get straight into it. So, going into this fight, Thorslund is 22-0 with 9 KOs, and Nuki is 15-5 with 10 KOs. This fight is for the for the WBC and WBO World Bantamweight titles. Thorslund's asked for a win via unanimous decision versus Setin, and Nuki's asked for a win via unanimous decision versus Kichuchi. This fight is in Thorslund's home country of Denmark. Thorslund is 31 and Nuki is 36. Nuki's losses have come versus Hiruta in 2022, Juarez in 2018 and in 2017, and Dionysius in 2018. And to speak a bit more about what I've just been saying, like I say, this is Thorslund returning back again, fighting in Denmark, and I suppose, perhaps you can argue that it's restricting her career continuously doing this, and perhaps she is just handpicking kind of mandatory opponents, and it's not fighting the other champions around, and it's not perhaps fighting the best of the division, but nonetheless she's been putting on excellent performances in the people that she has been fighting, and is back again against an interesting opponent in Nuki, who of course has fought at world level multiple times. Obviously, she lost at multiple times, and at world level multiple times, and it was Juarez twice for the WBC title and Dionysius for the IBF title. So, she's not had that kind of level of success against world level opposition, and also Hiruta is also a high level world level opposition. That might have been for the WBA title, I might be wrong. But like I say, it's not always been the best of runs in world title kind of contention or against the highly ranked names for herself, but obviously she's back to winning ways and is aiming to come and cause an upset in Denmark against Thorslund, in which, like I say, could be an interesting fight, could be perhaps two styles gelling to an extent, but nonetheless, obviously this is Thorslund's 12th world title fight, which to be honest is a crazy stat in itself, and the fact that she hasn't really kind of fought outside of Denmark, does say something that she's able to bring 12 world title fights to Denmark. I mean, realistically, when you think about other names, there's not really anybody that comes to mind where you can think has been able to bring kind of big fights to Denmark in general. So, it's impressive that she's been doing that, and I respect her for wanting to keep doing that because, of course, it is, like I say, uplifting Denmark and kind of bringing more eyes to them and things like that. But perhaps with this kind of Dibella Entertainment tournament in which they're talking about, perhaps we could see some fights being moved along and some big fights happening in these divisions. And the likes of Hughes versus Johnson 2 is being talks of happening with Dibella Promotions. Of course, Dibella Promotions also has Metcalf versus Yoshida this weekend, and I've done a prediction for that, so go feel free to check that out if you have not done so already. But like I say, it's an interesting thing, and it's perhaps on the minds of a lot of fighters in the women's divisions at the moment, like I say, in these certain lower divisions. But, Thorslund definitely can't be overlooking Nuki here, even though she is, like I say, 36 years of age, perhaps past the peak in which we have seen her in. But, like I say, she can be, on her day, a very tough test, and perhaps we'll have to wait and see if this is the day in which she wants to show up and she wants to kind of give that kind of a performance. But, to talk about them individually as fighters, Thorslund, she's a fast starter, and against Settin, that was a very good performance for herself, and a performance in which she definitely did start fast and kind of let her hands go straight away and was just in the centre of the ring trading pretty much from the very get-go. And then you did kind of question, is there any kind of chance in which she was able to keep this pace going? And, it did perhaps slow a little bit at times and things like that. But in general, it was fought at a very high pace, and Settin was just definitely not able to deal with that. And Thorslund was making the better of each and every single exchange. And in general, it was a very good game plan in which she executed, and like I say, was very impressive to be able to keep that work rate and that high output up, where Settin looked absolutely knackered come to the 10th and final round, where Thorslund did look tired, but looked like she was the much more comfortable out of the two of them. Like I say, even though they were exchanging quite a lot, and she was just basically able to outwill Setting for pretty much all of the fight, to be honest. And it was nice to see her put out that kind of statement performance, and like I say, kind of showed to the other women in the division that she is probably the best name at the moment, and she is the one that's reigning superior amongst all the others at the moment. So yeah, that was nice to see. And she has hand speed and she's aggressive. She punches pretty much all over you. She's able to impose herself, even if that is on the back foot. She's still able to kind of impose herself and be seen as that figure in which is you have to respect, and perhaps Nuki might have to respect Thorslund, and it'll be interesting to see if she does. She can fight at an in close or at a mid range. She can fight on the front or the back foot. She, like I say, will wait for you to tire, and like I say, she was fighting at such a high pace versus Setting, and that game plan was to, I'm sure, just tire her out from the very beginning. And like I say, it worked very well, and it's a different type of game plan to what you see a lot of fighters fight with. But like I said, it managed to work very well, and she definitely didn't respect Setting's power or realistically Setting's style at all, to be honest. She's got a very good uppercut when she does manage to land that. Perhaps in the early rounds when she is starting fast, it is a little bit all over the place, a bit uncontrolled at times. But when she's able to, perhaps calm it down a little bit and is able to pick them shots, she's able to work angles and has that solid uppercut in which she does execute very well. And a lot of the time she is going to meet you in the centre of the ring, which, like I say, can perhaps make for a very entertaining fight. Negatives about her, I think it's going to be interesting to see if she's able to do that type of style against like a Nuki, if she's going to want to or not. Conserving energy is definitely something in which you have to be wary of. Like I say, Thorslund is able to fight at a high pace for a long time, but of course, conserving energy has to be something in which is taken into account. She's got quite a wide stance at times and definitely does square up. So, if she is going to be squaring up with that wide stance, she is quite an open target, and she definitely does stay in range. She doesn't really set up her shots overly too much. Like I say, when she does, she's able to work angles and it's very nice. But like I say, setting up jab and setting up her shots and using her jab isn't always something that is excellent. Um, Watching where she's throwing her shots, sometimes she doesn't even seem to be watching where she's throwing her work. Looping in too many shots have been a bit too perhaps aggressive, like I say, overly aggressive, looping in too many just overhands and not really, like I say, worrying or trying to distributing. She's punching all over the place, but it's a lot of just big overhands and things like that. She's got sometimes a bit of a lack of control. Like I say, she squares up, she stands and trades, her head's on the line, forgetting a jab, and sometimes her footwork. I don't think her footwork is bad at all. I think it's something in which she can definitely use to her advantage. But like I say, I think she does forget that, like I say, alongside that jab at times as well. To speak about Nuki as a fighter, she's aggressive as well in her work a lot of the time. She lets her hands go. She's able to dig in shots nicely to the body. She's a front foot type fighter a lot of the time. So I believe probably will have Thorslund on the back foot when the pace does perhaps slow down at times. She can up the tempo at any point and is able to do that. So perhaps could catch Thorslund off guard if Nuki comes out and is able to kind of match the energy, and then perhaps when Thorslund does slow down a little bit, and Nuki is able to kind of up the pace, then that could catch Thorslund out. She controls the centre. She's got solid head movement. I don't think it's anything too impressive, but it's there. She tries to do it at times. Perhaps I would say it's better than that of Thorslund. But yeah, like I say, she controls the centre, and I think this fight could definitely be a fight in which is kind of fought in the centre of the ring. She's an in close type fighter, so I don't believe she's going to be wanting to give Thorslund that kind of distance or that range, perhaps at all. She isn't discouraged. She's able to maintain pressure and is able to keep coming forwards, and even if a little kind of opening in space, or even if she doesn't get the best of an exchange, she'll rush back in to be able to keep that pressure going and keep you, like I say, under pressure and having to deal with something consistently. Negatives about her, I think her hand speed is a lot lesser than that of Thorslund. I don't think her combinations are thrown in the same kind of animosity. She can be beaten to the punch quite a lot. She's quite inconsistent in which type of performance we see from her. Sometimes she can be very aggressive and is able to, fight perhaps a little bit similarly to Thorslund, is able to fight at a high output and really let her hands go. But sometimes she can be really beaten to the punch and then just walk onto a lot of shots, and that's what happened in some of her losses as well. Like I say, she was just consistently walking onto shots. She doesn't always seem to be able to get past the jab that well. Perhaps, like I say, that might not be too much of a problem depending on if Thorslund remembers to use her jab or not. But like I say, I don't think Nuki is able to get past the jab that well. I think fighting at a mid-range can, like I say, sometimes be a problem. And if Thorslund is able to create space, I definitely think she could find success at a mid-range. I think she can perhaps be predictable at times, Nuki. She does take time off herself. Obviously, like I say, she will want to fight at a relatively high pace, but she does take time off as well. I think her accuracy isn't anywhere near as good as Thorslund's. Thorslund's can be a bit uncontrolled at times, but when she does slow the pace down a little bit, her accuracy then becomes very sharp and very nice to see. She can be her punches often can just kind of get swatted away, beaten away. She has a lot of knockouts for the wins in which she has, but like I say, when she is beaten to the punch and is struggling to get past the jab, a lot of her punches can just be beaten away. When she tries to box, I don't think that's necessarily her style at all. If she is trying to box and move or anything like that, I think in general she does struggle against movers. But like I say, Thorslund has that good movement. It's just if she does remember to use it or not, and she does square up as well. Nuki. Thorslund is the favourite for this fight, and I think that Thorslund will win via TKO in round 11. I think she's probably going to set a high pace from early and consistently be able to set that high pace. Like I say, perhaps Nuki could have success at little points at times if if she doesn't fight to Thorslund's rhythm and doesn't get drawn into an instant fight straight away and is able to perhaps weather a bit of an early storm. But I think the age, like I say, if she does get started, if she does struggle to get Thorslund pinned down, and I think if she does walk onto a lot of shots and she does get beaten to the punch and get the worst out of exchanges on a regular basis, I think perhaps the corner might stop it. Perhaps she could get dropped or something into the later rounds. Thorslund, isn't a huge puncher, but is able to, because of that high output, just kind of fluster opponents and be a bit too much for opponents in that aspect. And yeah, that could happen, and I see that happening into the later rounds. I think this is a fight in which Nuki, at 36 years of age, into the later part of her career, she's not going to be able to handle a primed Thorslund who is looking as high pace and as aggressive in which she is right now. And then who she could go on to fight Thorslund, like I mentioned, there's names there available in this perhaps Dibella Entertainment's tournament. If it happens, if it doesn't happen, then we'd still like to see these big fights available. We'd realistically like to see Thorslund kind of moving outside of Denmark and actually testing herself on the bigger stages elsewhere. So perhaps the winner of Johnson versus Hughes 2 for that WBA title could be a great fight to be made. I think there's definitely fights there to be made in which Thorslund can win for the other belts. Of course, like I say, Metcalf versus Yoshida, the winner of that could be a great fight. Or if she is wanting to stick around consistently fighting in Denmark and isn't quite ready to really kind of stretch out yet, then something like a Suarez could be an option. She's, I believe, 13-1 and hasn't really fought, I believe, at a crazily high level. But nonetheless, that could be a fight to be made. But yeah, that probably would be on Denmark. And, perhaps there are a couple names of fighters coming up who could fight in Denmark and then be an option for Thorslund there. But like I say, a lot of people would like to see her kind of progress out of there now. And she is, I think, made a big enough name for herself to be able to do so. So hopefully we will see that happen. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy it. Like it if you did indeed like the video, subscribe if you are new. And thanks for watching.